There's something no one tells you about turning 80. It's not the aches in the knees or the names that slip your mind now and then. It's not the slower mornings or the more frequent doctor's appointments. Those, oddly enough, you come to expect. What no one tells you is how quiet everything becomes, not just around you, but inside you. You wake up one morning, and it feels like the world no longer waits for you. The phone rings less. The mail brings fewer surprises. The calendar, once filled with notes and names, now stares back blankly. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still remembering, still hoping. But somewhere between those breaths, those memories, and those hopes, something feels missing. If you've felt this, even once, even fleetingly, please know you're not alone. And no, it's not just old age. It's not just the body breaking down or genes catching up. What unfolds after 80 is more complex and far more human than we often admit. In this video, I want to gently take you on a journey through 5 hidden reasons why so many seniors begin to fade, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually after crossing that milestone birthday. These aren't about poor habits or bad luck. They're subtle shifts, quiet patterns, gentle losses that go unnoticed until they have already settled in. But here's the hopeful part: once we can name them, we can change them. So stay with me. There's a story in here that might be your own. And if you've ever asked yourself, why does life feel different now? Empty or somehow, the answers might be more healing than you expect. If you've ever felt the strange quiet after 80, comment the number 1. If not yet, leave a 0. I read every single one. And if anything here touches your heart, please subscribe and tap the bell. Let's not lose each other in this big, quiet world. Number 1, the invisible weight of loneliness. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't look like loneliness at all. It doesn't show up as tears or dramatic phone calls. It doesn't wear a sign that says, "Help me, I'm alone." In fact, it often hides in plain sight, in polite smiles, in quiet routines, in the sentence, "I'm doing fine." But beneath that calm surface, something heavier is quietly settling in. I remember a man named Harold. He was 83 when I met him. Every morning, he would rise at the same time, make himself oatmeal, turn on the radio and read the paper. Nothing seemed out of place, but something in his eyes told another story. You see, Harold used to get a phone call every day from his brother. Just 5 minutes, a quick laugh, a memory, a gentle "How are you?" But when his brother passed, the phone went quiet, and so did something inside Harold. He didn't stop eating, he didn't fall into depression, but over time, his appetite softened. He stopped walking to the mailbox. He began to nap more during the day. He stopped calling his friends, not because he didn't want to, but because he felt invisible. That's what loneliness often looks like after 80. It's not always dramatic. It's quiet, like fog rolling in, and yet it affects everything: your memory, your immune system, your sleep. Studies have shown that chronic loneliness can be as damaging as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. But here's the painful part. Most people don't even realize they're lonely. They just say, "I'm tired," or "I don't feel like going out today." But the body knows. It listens, it adapts, and eventually it begins to slow down, not from illness, but from absence. From too many days without a voice calling your name. The human spirit is wired for connection, even the smallest kind. A wave from a neighbor, a shared smile in line at the store, a voice saying, "You matter." And when those disappear, the soul begins to shrink. So if you've noticed yourself withdrawing, or if the days feel quieter than they used to, it may not be fatigue. It might be something deeper asking for attention. And if you're still here, reading or watching, I invite you to pause, to ask yourself, when was the last time someone asked how you were and truly waited to hear the answer? Because your voice still matters. Your presence still matters. And this world still needs your light, even if it's just one small conversation at a time. Number 2, when movement becomes memory. There is a quiet shift that happens in the lives of many after 80, a transition, so subtle it often escapes notice. It's the shift from movement as a habit to movement as a memory. The change doesn't come with a loud announcement. It begins gently, with the hesitation to take the stairs, with choosing the armchair over the garden bench, with putting off a simple errand because it can wait. It feels like wisdom, and in many ways, it is. We've learned caution through experience. We know what it means to fall, to strain, to tire, but there's a fine line between caution and surrender. The body was not made to be idle. It was made to respond, to stretch, to breathe with effort. Muscles don't simply hold their form because we want them to. They respond to daily use, to the invitation of motion. And when that invitation is no longer extended, the body begins to loosen its grip. Strength seeps away not in one day, but in dozens of unnoticed days stacked quietly atop one another. After 80 many well-meaning decisions to rest more, slowly erode the foundation of vitality, the core weakens, the back grows less stable, the legs lose their confidence, not because the body has failed, but because the message it keeps receiving is, you are no longer needed in motion, and when the body stops being needed, it forgets how to move. Not only in the obvious ways, Raymond, but also in the intimate inner functions, coordination, balance, blood circulation, mental clarity. Everything is connected. Movement doesn't just serve the muscles. It tells the brain I am alive. I am still part of this world. I still have somewhere to go. Overprotecting ourselves from harm can quietly become the very thing that steals our strength. The truth is, we don't lose the ability to move because we age. We lose it because we stop using it. And often, we stop because we're afraid. But fear can be gently met not with denial, but with intention. Movement after 80 doesn't need to be bold. It doesn't need to be fast. It needs to be true, a reflection of your current capacity. Yes, but also a declaration that your body still remembers the rhythm of life. Let your body remember. Let it stretch, even if gently. Let it walk, even if slowly. Let it reach, even if only a little. Each time you move, you are reminding yourself that this life still flows through you. Number 3, the light we forget to let in. As we grow older, we often speak of aches, medications, and memory, but there's something even more subtle that begins to fade not from our bodies, but from our environment. Light, not the light of lamps or television screens, but real light, the sun rising beyond your window. The way morning pours into a quiet kitchen, the shifting warmth of day fading into evening calm. This kind of light carries something more than brightness. It holds rhythm, and rhythm is life. Deep inside each of us is an internal timekeeper, the circadian rhythm. It quietly governs when we feel alert, when we grow tired, how we heal, how we digest, how we remember, even how our immune system reacts to threats. It is one of the body's most delicate instruments, and yet it depends on one of the most fragile things: daily exposure to natural light. But after 80, that exposure often changes. Mornings are slower, windows stay closed, days pass indoors, curtains stay drawn, artificial lights glow well into the night, screens flicker until sleep overtakes us. What once was natural has become distorted, and the body, sensitive as it is, becomes confused. Without strong signals from the rising and setting sun, your system struggles to know when to rest and when to renew. Melatonin, the hormone that ushers in sleep, becomes erratic. Deep rest is replaced by fragmented hours. Waking feels groggy, and energy fades fast. The result isn't just tiredness, it's disorientation, a thinning of clarity, a slow erosion of the mind's sharpness. Not because the brain is broken, but because it's lost its anchor in the natural world. And then there's another layer: sunlight feeds the body in ways we can't replace with pills alone. It helps produce vitamin D, crucial for strong bones, steady muscles, and resilient immunity. Without it, even the best nutrition can feel incomplete. But this is not a message of worry. It's a gentle reminder, a small light of awareness. Because restoring the rhythm does not require grand effort. It begins with a few intentional moments, stepping outside in the early light, opening a curtain fully, turning off screens before bed, dimming the lights as evening arrives. These acts tell your body you are still in rhythm with the earth. You are still part of the cycle of day and night. You are still being renewed in letting the light in. You're not just brightening your home. You're waking up something deep within you that still longs to feel alive. Number 4, the grief that hides in the body. By the time we reach our 80s, most of us have experienced loss not once, but many times over. A spouse, a sibling, a lifelong friend, a neighbor, a pet, even a sense of who we once were. And yet, few of us have been shown what to do with that grief. We are taught how to plan a funeral, how to sort through belongings, how to say thank you to those who offer condolences. But we are rarely taught what to do with the ache that stays behind, not for days or weeks, but sometimes for years. So instead of grieving outwardly, many of us turn inward. We say things like, "That's life." We smile politely. We move forward on the outside, but on the inside, something still lingers unspoken, heavy, unresolved. Grief that has no voice doesn't disappear. It settles into the body quietly, deeply. It alters the breath. It affects sleep. It changes my appetite. It weakens the immune system. It can even change how the nervous system responds to daily life, making everything feel just a bit more overwhelming. And perhaps most quietly of all, it dims the inner light, the spark that once made you want to pick up the phone, tend the garden, write a letter, or smile for no reason. This kind of emotional suppression is often mistaken for fatigue, forgetfulness, or the so-called normal slowing down of old age. But the truth is, unprocessed sorrow has a language, and if it is not spoken, the body will speak it for you. Still, there is hope, because the healing of grief does not require dramatic confessions. It only requires permission. Permission to feel. Permission to say, "I still miss them." Permission to be both strong and tender. Permission to let the tears rise, even if they've been waiting quietly for years. Grief, when honored, becomes softer. It does not vanish, but it transforms. It becomes a thread that connects you to the love that once filled your days. It becomes a memory you can sit beside, not one that presses down on your chest. And in that gentle release, the body begins to breathe again. The mind begins to clear. The heart begins to trust that even though something has ended, something meaningful can still begin. So if you have carried sorrow in silence, please know your heart's allowed to speak. It doesn't make you weak. It means you're still alive. Number 5, the day has no job for me. One of the most underestimated changes that creeps in after 80 is not physical at all. It's not the stiffness in the joints or the slowing of the steps. It's the absence of direction. The disappearance of simple, reliable reasons to rise from bed, not grand ambitions, not world-changing plans, but the quiet, grounding rhythm of daily purpose. For most of our lives, we are carried forward by structure. Wake up at 6, brew coffee, get dressed, go to work, pick up the grandkids, water the garden, bake the casserole for Tuesday dinner. These are not chores, they are anchors. They give shape to our days and meaning to our presence. But slowly, life shifts. We retire. Children move away. Friends pass. Routines that once called us forward begin to fall silent. There is no meeting to attend. No one expects a phone call. The flowers in the yard are now tended by someone else. The coffee is brewed for one. And while this might sound like peace at first, over time, peace without purpose becomes emptiness. Without a task, even a small one, the body begins to forget why it needs to move. The mind begins to wander without landing. The spirit begins to feel invisible not to others, but to itself. Purpose is not a luxury. It is a nutrient. And like any essential, its absence leaves a deficit not all at once, but day by day. Without a reason to get dressed, We linger in sleepwear. Without a reason to tidy the room, the dust begins to settle. Without a reason to plan lunch, hunger fades. Without a reason to share something, silence grows. And slowly, the day becomes less of a gift and more of a space to endure. But it doesn't have to stay that way. The beauty of daily purpose is that it does not demand grandeur. It only asks for meaning, and meaning can be small. You could write one kind sentence and mail it. You could care for a plant and talk to it as you water. You could light a candle each morning and say a quiet prayer. You could sit by the window at 4 p.m. and watch the neighborhood children walk home, waving when they look your way. You could call a neighbor just to say hello, even if they don't answer. These are not small acts. They are soul-sized. They remind your body it still belongs to this world. They remind your breath that someone, somewhere, is touched by your presence. They remind your heart that life is not finished with you, and the body listens. It listens when the mind says, "There's still something I can do." It responds when the heart whispers, "Today still matters." It may seem strange, but the body's most basic systems, digestion, sleep, cognition, are deeply intertwined with one central message: am I needed? When that answer becomes unclear, the body begins to conserve, too slow, to pull inward. Not because it's failing, but because it is waiting for the signal that it's still part of something. So if your days have started to blur, if you've looked at the clock and wondered where the morning went or why it even matters, don't dismiss that as just age. That is your body asking for rhythm, for meaning, for a reason, however small, to come alive again. Because even now, especially now, you are still needed. You are still someone whose presence changes the shape of a day. And perhaps that's the most healing truth of all. And yet, even when purpose returns to the day, something still feels distant. We may have things to do, but fewer people to share them with. And without words, even the simplest kind, we begin to drift quietly away from the world we belong to. Number 6, we talk less, so we feel less alive. There's something tender and powerful about the human voice. Long before we could write, we survived through sound calling, responding, comforting, remembering. Conversation wasn't a luxury, it was a lifeline. And even now, even after decades of growing older and wiser, our need to speak and be spoken to hasn't changed. What has changed quietly, slowly, is how much we talk, or rather, how little. After 80, many people find themselves speaking less, not out of choice, but out of circumstance. The phone rings less often. The home grows quieter. Social circles shrink with time. Hearing grows more fragile. Energy thins out. We begin to assume that what we have to say doesn't matter, or worse, that no one wants to hear it anymore. But the truth is, speech is not just for communication. It's for connection. It's for identity. It's for memory. And when we stop speaking, the effects are deeper than silence. The brain, especially in later years, thrives on interaction. Language is like exercise for the mind, keeping circuits engaged, memories active, emotions processed. When we describe how we feel, recall a story, respond to someone's question, even in casual ways, we're strengthening our sense of self. But when speech fades into quiet, a part of us begins to dim, not because we have nothing left to say, but because we forget how alive we feel when we say it. The loss of conversation isn't always obvious. It doesn't happen with one moment. It starts with skipping small greetings, with letting calls go unanswered, with thinking, "I'll tell them later," until later never comes. And here's the hard part: the less we speak, the harder it becomes to speak. The voice grows unfamiliar, the thoughts slow. The confidence to share what's in our hearts gets buried under habit and hesitation. But the healing doesn't require speeches. It doesn't need perfect grammar or even deep topics. It begins, as all life-giving things do, with something small. Saying hello to the mail carrier, asking a stranger how their day is going, calling a friend just to say, "I thought of you." speaking out loud to yourself while you make tea. This cup smells good today. Whispering to a plant you're watering. Naming the color of the sky as you walk outside. These small acts of speech are not insignificant. They're signals to your nervous system, to your memory, to your heart that you are still part of the human world. Even a 1-minute conversation can lower stress, elevate mood, and improve cognition. Even a shared joke or passing comment can reignite a sense of warmth, of presence, of being seen. You don't have to wait for someone else to initiate it. You can be the one to start. You can be the voice that brings someone else back to life too. Because as much as we need to be spoken to, we also need to hear ourselves to remind ourselves that we still have a voice and it still matters. And maybe that's one of the quiet tragedies of aging in silence, not the absence of sound, but the erosion of that inner permission to take up space, to speak our thoughts, to share our feelings, even if no one else responds. But you deserve to take up space. You deserve to be heard even by the birds outside, or by your own reflection in the mirror. Your voice is part of your aliveness. Letting it fall silent is like telling your soul it's no longer needed. So begin again. One word, one greeting, one question, one memory, spoken aloud. Let your voice stretch gently into the day. Let it fill the room, even if no one else is there. Let it remind you, not just others, that you are still here, still vibrant, still capable of giving life through sound. Because to speak is to affirm I exist, and that truth alone is worth saying aloud. Number 7, the silent pull of giving up. Not every surrender looks like collapse. Sometimes giving up comes dressed in quiet, well-reasoned choices. We don't slam doors, we don't shout, I've had enough. Instead, we simply stop. We stop watering the plants. We stop replying to messages. We stop checking the mailbox. We stop brushing our hair before breakfast. We stop saying, I'll try. Not all at once, but slowly, softly, so gently that even we don't notice we're doing it. It begins with the loss of interest. That feeling when things that used to bring a little spark, even a tiny one now, feel like too much effort. Not unpleasant, just not worth it. Then comes the postponing. You say you'll do it tomorrow, or when you feel more awake, or when the weather is better, but the better moment doesn't come, and so the thing remains undone. And then comes the forgetting, not of memory, but of identity. You forget how you once loved music. You forget the sound of your own laughter. You forget the joy of putting on a fresh shirt just because it feels good. You forget how you used to care. This is the quiet pull of resignation, not loud, not dramatic, but powerful. And the body, always listening, responds. It lowers your appetite. It shortens your attention. It lets your posture curl forward. It sends fewer endorphins. It withdraws its energy not because it's broken, but because you stopped giving it a reason to stay engaged. You see, vitality doesn't just run on food or sleep. It runs on hope, on curiosity, on wanting to see what the next hour holds. When that spark dims, the systems within us begin to hibernate, not from age, but from absence of intention. And yet, here's the healing truth that pull can be reversed, not with willpower, not with pressure, but with presence, with kindness, to yourself. What you need isn't discipline, it's gentleness. You don't need to push through. You need to listen and respond with small, human-sized steps. Instead of forcing yourself to clean the whole kitchen, start by rinsing one teacup. Instead of writing a full letter, write just one sentence. Instead of walking a mile, take 5 slow steps toward the window. Instead of putting on your best clothes, simply run your fingers along the fabric and feel the softness again. Each small action is a whisper to your soul, I haven't forgotten you. You still matter, even now. Especially now, giving up is not always about despair. Sometimes it's about exhaustion. Sometimes it's about a body or heart that hasn't felt seen in a long time. And sometimes it's about fear. Fear that trying again will only remind you of how far you've drifted from who you used to be. But healing isn't about returning to who you were. It's about meeting who you are now gently, honestly, and offering that version of yourself a little more care. There is still music inside you, still a note of wonder, still something unfinished that wants to breathe. So take one step, not because you must, but because you can. And because in that one step, even if no one sees it, you are choosing to stay, to remain, to belong, to be here, still. Number 8, too much help, too little challenge. There's a kindness that sometimes backfires, a love so careful, so well-meaning, that it quietly begins to take things away. After 80, many are surrounded by helping hands, children who cook and clean, caregivers who organize medication, family members who rush to finish sentences or open jars. And while every gesture is made with care, something subtle begins to shift within. You start to be done for, more than invited to do. You start to be watched over, more than trusted with. You start to feel like a task instead of a participant, and with every thoughtful offer to sit, rest, let me do that for you. Another signal reaches the body. You are no longer expected to act, just exist. At first, it feels like comfort, like love made visible, but over time, it begins to echo as doubt. You start to wonder, can I still do this? Should I even try? And when that question lingers too long, effort disappears, not because of laziness, not because of weakness, but because the muscle of self-trust begins to atrophy. You see, challenge is not the enemy of aging. Disuse is. Without effort, strength doesn't stay neutral, it fades. Without trying, skills don't stay polished, they dull. Without decision-making, confidence doesn't rest, it retreats. Even the smallest acts of independence, reaching, lifting, tying a shoe, answering a phone call, tidying a drawer, are not just tasks. They are affirmations. They say I am still able, I am still in this, I still belong to the moving world. But when those chances are taken away lovingly, of course they begin to disappear from your daily experience. And when that happens, a kind of quiet resignation can take root. It doesn't look like sadness. It looks like stillness. It looks like waiting, waiting for someone to pour the water, choose the clothes, speak the words. The tragedy is not in needing help. It's not allowed to try first, because trying even imperfectly is what keeps the nervous system active, the muscles responsive, the will engaged. It reminds your mind that there's still something you're responsible for, still something that relies on you. Even in aging, autonomy is sacred. Even in slowing down, choice matters. Even in fragility, capability deserves to be honored. And yet, in a world that fears seeing its elders struggle, we have created a kind of soft imprisonment where kindness covers over challenge, and in doing so, gently erases identity. But it doesn't have to stay that way. We don't need to reject help. We just need to reshape it. Support doesn't mean taking everything over. Support means standing nearby while someone tries. It means offering steadiness, not substitution. Let your hands reach first. Let your thoughts come out unedited. Let your body do what it still remembers how to do, even if it takes longer, even if it wobbles, even if someone else could do it faster. Because when you are given space to try, you are given dignity. And dignity is not about doing everything alone. It's about being invited to stay involved. So if you've noticed yourself hesitating to act, not because you can't, but because others always step in, take a moment to ask, what might I still be able to do? If I was given time, trust, and patience. And if you are someone who gives care lovingly, consistently, remember this: helping is holy, but so is honoring someone's effort, even if it's messy, even if it's slow, even if it ends in needing help anyway. Because in the trying, the body remembers its place in this world. And in being allowed to try, the soul remembers its worth. Number 9, the healing power of doing just one thing. After all the complexities of aging, the quiet losses, the invisible shifts, the fears we hesitate to name, It's easy to believe that restoring vitality requires something grand, a big change, a strict routine, a bold breakthrough. But the truth is simpler and softer. What often saves us is doing just one thing, one meaningful act, one small rhythm that tells your body and your spirit you're still here. You still matter. When life starts to feel like it's unraveling, when days lose their shape, when energy fades, when hope feels like a whisper instead of a song, the most healing thing we can do is begin again. Not with a plan, not with pressure, but with presence. Choose one thing, just one, and let it anchor you. It could be opening the window each morning and taking 3 deep breaths. It could be placing your hand on your heart and saying, "I'm proud of you," before sleep. It could be placing a flower in a glass on your table, fresh or dried, and noticing how the light hits it. It could be walking to the mailbox every afternoon, whether there's mail or not. It could be boiling water for tea and letting the steam rise into your face like a gentle prayer. This is not about productivity. It's about survival. One intentional act becomes a thread, and a thread, then when repeated each day, becomes a path. And that path, no matter how short or quiet, becomes belonging. You are not meant to fill every hour with activity. You are meant to connect to yourself, to time, to now. The beauty of doing one thing is that it breaks the illusion that we're lost. It brings back focus. It brings back a sensation. It gives your nervous system a foothold. It gives your spirit something to hold on to. Because when we feel scattered, it's often because our days have no edges. They blur. One flows into the next. But when you choose one small ritual and make it sacred, time begins to soften again. You begin to re-enter your life with intention. And here's the quiet miracle your body notices. Your heart rate steadies, your sleep improves, your digestion calms, your breath deepens, your mind begins to feel more spacious. Not because everything is fixed, but because something is rooted. This one thing becomes your personal form of medicine, a dose of meaning, a drop of rhythm, a reminder that you are still in motion, even in stillness. You don't need to explain it to anyone. It doesn't need to make sense to others. It only needs to feel true to you. Because when we commit to one gentle act each day and repeat it with love, we are no longer drifting. We are choosing. We are inhabiting our days again. And slowly, a quiet dignity returns. You begin to wake not just to pass the hours, but to touch one small part of life again with care. This is the power of small thing. They rescue us. They reintroduce us to ourselves. They whisper, "You're still here." And from that whisper, a whole new season can grow. So ask yourself now, with tenderness, what is one thing I could do, not for achievement, but for connection, not for others, but for my own soul? And when you find it, let that be enough. Because the act of choosing just one thing and doing it with intention is how we come back to life. Not all at once, but truly. If you've stayed with me this far, I want to thank you, not just for your time, but for your presence. Because what we've just shared isn't simply information. It's an invitation. An invitation to look gently at the parts of your life that may have gone quiet. To see not just where strength has faded, but where meaning can return. We began this journey with a question: why do so many seem to fade after 80? And as we've discovered together, it's not always because of illness, or genes, or fate. More often, it's something quieter. It's disconnection, it's overcaution, it's absence of rhythm, of light, of voice, of feeling, of purpose. And the most tender truth of all, it doesn't take much to begin again. You don't need to change everything. You don't need to chase youth. You don't need to be someone you were 20 years ago. You only need to listen truly, listen to the parts of you that are still waiting to be seen. Because aging isn't falling away. It's a deepening, a returning, a quiet becoming. It is not the end of contribution. It's the beginning of contribution that comes from wisdom, from stillness, from having lived through enough storms to know the calm that follows is a gift in itself. So now I ask you, what part of today's message stayed with you? Was it the reminder that your voice still matters? Was it the idea that purpose can be something as small as noticing the light? Was it the realization that you are still allowed to feel, to try, to belong? If even one of these ideas stirred something in you, I invite you to pause here and comment below. What part made you quiet inside? What might you do, even gently, starting today? I read every single message, and your reflections bring this space to life. And if no one has told you this recently, you are not fading. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are still here, still needed, still deeply, quietly powerful in ways that numbers can't count. This moment, this very breath, still belongs to you. So whether you are 81 or 98, whether your steps are swift or measured, whether your days feel full or a little bit hollow, know this: you still have the right to create rhythm, to bring color into your corner of the world, to be held, heard, and honored, to belong not just to others, but to yourself. And if this message has helped you remember that, even a little, then I believe we've done something beautiful together today. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss the next story that just might be the one your heart needs most. And in the next video, we'll explore how small daily kindnesses offered to others can become the greatest medicine we never expected. Until then, please take gentle care of yourself. You are not just aging, you are becoming something sacred,